so let's start again. Kleros, dodges, and token. And no, my slides moves, that's great. So, basic use case, you have Alice, which wants to pay Bob to make a website on a freelancing platform. If Alice pays Bob and Bob does not make a website or does not satisfy the specification, Alice has no recourse because you don't have any kind of chargeback with crypto. To avoid that, what Alice can do, she can put money in an escrow smart contract. If the job is done, she can sign, Bob get paid from the escrow contract, and that's easy. But now, if you have a dispute, Alice and Bob do not agree that the website is satisfying the specification, we need a dispute resolution mechanism. So they both pay arbitration fee, and an arbitrator is going to rule that Alice is right and Alice gets the money back. But a simple example of dispute where you just move money depending on ruling. We can have some more complex kind of dispute. So here let's look at the famous rain oracle. You have this insurance contract which are paying farmer if it's dry for some period of time. The contract cannot know if it's dry. They need to rely on this oracle contract. The oracle contract asks people to report if it's rainy or if it's dry, and if all the reports match, that's easy. The insurance contract pull data, it's raining, so they don't pay anyone, and that's easy. But now, if you get a dispute between reporters, Alice say, oh, it was raining in this part of the world, Bob say, no, it's sunny now. We need again a dispute resolution mechanism which can rule that it was rainy and penalize Bob for lying to the oracle, and then insurance contract pulls the data. Another huge category of dispute, and that's what we're gonna talk about in the remaining documentation, is listing dispute. So often we want to make a list of dodge picture. We only want dodges on the list. So when Alice wants to put a dodge, she puts a dodge in the list, she pays a deposit, and if no one complains, the dodge is accepted, she gets a deposit back, and that's how you fill the list with item. But now she tries to put a CryptoKitty into the list, and Bob, who is watching the list, is, well, this kitty has nothing to do into the dodge list, so now we create a challenge. And again, a dispute resolution system are going to rule that the kitty is invalid, Alice is going to lose the deposit, and Bob is going to win a reward for having removed malicious item from the list. So this arbitrator can be just one centralized party, a multi-sig, or a DAO, and that's what Kleros is. It's a dispute resolution DAO. So if you want to crowdsource dispute resolution, first, if we were to let anyone be a juror involved in dispute, we'll get the problem of having too much people, so too few reward for all of them, or too high arbitration cost. So we should only take a subset of those and draw randomly some jurors. Yesterday we saw some presentation about identity, but we have, to be honest, identity is not ready yet on chain. And if we just let one account, one person, we get this guy, which is going to register tons of time and overcome the system and be almost the only one taking the decisions. So we cannot do one account, one vote, or no, one account, one chance of getting a vote. We can only do one token, one chance of getting a vote. So we have people from A to G which want to be juror. They stake some token. We want 5 jurors, so we draw 5 of them. A, C, E, and G are drawn. In this particular case, E is drawn twice because the pool of jurors is small, but with large pool of jurors is quite unlikely. And they are the ones which are going to solve the dispute. Now we get another problem, which is why would anyone bother into solving the dispute? Why wouldn't they just take the money, vote randomly, get the fee, and that's all. So to avoid that, we have to have some token redistribution. Here, the top juror voted for Alice, the bottom one voted for Bob, so the one in the bottom are going to lose a bit of token to the one voting on top. So that's basically the shading game. Here, what you need to do is to find the square that most of the people are going to find. So I'll let you like 5 seconds to choose your square. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now those who voted for the top left square, raise your hand. How many? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. So 15. those who voted for this square. 3. This square. 1. This square. 3. So we see that the first one got 15 votes and the other gets 3 or 1 vote. So any square can be a point where anyone can converge in it and all get reward for voting the same way as the other. But obviously the top left one first is the top left one, and we are used to write from left to right and from top to bottom, so that's the first one according to our writing system. It's arranged, so that's different than blue, and you have a dodge picture on it. So that makes it quite special, even if from just a matrix, the game theory matrix, all the squares are equivalent. So for the dispute resolution system, this shading point is not a square, but it's giving honest ruling. So if you think that the other people are going to give honest ruling, you also have to give honest ruling. And in practice it goes up to 3 levels. People are going to take decision according to what they think, that others think, that others think. But that's not that easy. We are on chain, so we can bribe people. That's even worse than in the outside world, because in the outside world, if someone offers a bribe, well, that seems to be some malicious guys who may offer the bribe and not even pay you. But no, on chain, you can make smart contracts which are going to guarantee that the bribe offered will be paid. So now, if Bob bribes a juror, we need a way to get out of this bad situation. So the way to do so is to have some appeal system where you can put additional stake and get more juror. Obviously, you're going to say, well, okay, that's going to get more and more juror, but if most of the juror are corrupted, well, that's a 15% attack. And if most of the system is, if most of the tokens are controlled by malicious juror, we're going to get malicious ruling. So here, the token comes into place. If we were to use just ETH as a token, you could buy a lot of ETH, stake the ETH in the system, and do a 15% attack at a relatively acceptable budget. Now, if you use another token, which are going to be a smaller cap, you're going to make more influence on the price. Like if you try to buy 15% of a token, there's going to be more than 15% of the price because of the buying pressure you're going to make. So that's increase the budget for attacks. Now, imagine you get a successful attack and you add that with ETH. Okay, you destroy the system, but now you still have a bunch of ETH. Now, if it's with a specific token, you destroy the system and you sit with 51% of the system of a token which has been just destroyed. So now you have a huge cost of your attack because you have to destroy the value of your own token to attack the system. And in the bad case where it still happens, you still have the 50% attack. If it's with ETH, well, the malicious actors they still have the majority. But now, if it's with a specific token that we can fork, an honest minority can fork the system in order to make a new Kleros, and now people with dispute or with contract post-dispute, they're gonna choose the honest Kleros and not the old one because they know the old one is corrupted. That's still bad because the previous dispute they stay on the old one. So before we just made a simplification of the shading point. In practice, it's a bit more complicated. Because when you give honest ruling, token value increase a bit because people are going to use a system giving honest ruling. If you give dishonest one, it decrease a bit. But when you look at what is the honest answer, you have some cost, you have some cognitive cost, you need to think and spend some time. So we have 3 Nash equilibrium which can arise. One where everyone is voting honestly, so if everyone votes honestly, you have to vote honestly because otherwise you lose token. If everyone is voting dishonestly, that's not as good Nash equilibrium, but you still have to vote dishonestly because anyway the result is going to be dishonest, so better get some token. And if everyone is voting randomly, you also have to vote randomly because no matter what you vote, they're just random, and just better not take time, not take a cognitive cost to know the result. So we have 3 Nash equilibrium, well, 2 are bad, and 1 is the one we want to target. So to verify that we end up into the good Nash equilibrium, we made experimental cryptoeconomic. So we made this list of dodge picture, and you see that the one which get accepted look like dodges, and the ones which get rejected look like cat or stuff which are not dodges. So from an experimental point of view, it seems to mostly work. There is something, some kind of attack, a little more complex than the previous one, where you just buy 15% of the token, is when you try to bribe people, but only pay the bribe if the people you bribe are incoherent. So in this case, I'm a briber, I'm gonna give 2.01 token if the bribee votes for Bob, and Bob is not the consensus result. So this way, if Bob wins as an attacker, I don't pay anything, so I have a zero cost. I have a high budget but a zero cost. And if Bob loses, in this case, people who will have voted for Bob, they get reimbursed what they lose, plus they get what they would have won if they voted for Alice. So from your perspective, it seems that taking the bribe is always good. Either you are in the consensus, or you are not in the consensus, and you get reimbursed plus a smaller extra. So we tried to do attack like that. And in practice, it ended up with 1/3 of the juror accepting the bribe, but still 2/3 which give honest ruling. So people are not just looking at economic incentive in terms of amount of tokens they get. They also have utility based on the value. So if you value the fact of being honest, even if you could eventually get more economic reward by being honest, you have a loss of utility by not following the value you have. So now we spoke a bit about Kleros, and now with the current experiment, the dodge list, let's look about what it could be used for something like the Ethfinex listing, because listing dodges, listing token, dodges are more fun, but token may be more useful. So currently, you have order of voting token which vote for project, and the top project get listed. But there is one point of centralization, which is you have people from the Ethfinex team which choose which token are going to be put to vote. So maybe we can decentralize the pre-listing process. In the pre-listing process, we want to prevent these two things. The one is listing fake token, because you actually have people which look at token and make fake one and then sell them. We actually had a guy which managed to sell 500 euro of fake PNK to other people by just making fake token. And like, the one with the symbol is the right one, but it's not even the first one which ended up on Etherscan. Another problem for listing in Ethfinex is you may not even want people to see malicious project, bad token for vote. So you may want to have condition on what can be put to vote to be at listed. So in terms of legality, in terms of security, and in terms of having a realistic roadmap, not just being a scam. So what we can do a token curated list via a lot square. So you want, Alice wants to list Decentraland on the token curated list. So she put it with a deposit, no one complains, it gets accepted. Now she wants to list a shitcoin. On the first stage, we just verify that the name, the image, and the address are matching. So in this case, the shitcoin should still be listed because the name, image, and address match. Now, to put something to vote for Ethfinex, what we could have Ethfinex badge to be attached to a listing. So in this case, Alice will say, oh, Decentraland satisfy the condition to be put to vote to Ethfinex, and no one complained, it gets added. But now Alice tried to do the same with the shitcoin, and Bob said, whoa, no, this shitcoin has no roadmap. The roadmap is just, so you're going to do 10x in the next month, and you make a challenge, and now you get the process you've seen before, with juror, which says that the shitcoin does not comply with the Ethfinex badge, and the badge gets removed, and Alice loses the deposit toward Bob. So yeah, it's good to pre-list the token, but if we do so, we don't just have 10 tokens, we can have way more tokens, and in the current way to vote, which is first past the post, basically the one getting the most votes gets added. That will lead to a lot of strategic votes. If you have like 50 tokens to list, even if you may prefer request, but you know request has no chance of being listed, you may vote for maker because maker is the second best and have more chance of being listed. So that leads to a lot of strategic vote, and that tends to be bad and only be advantageous to people spending a lot of time on evaluating what other people are going to think. So we can also have a better voting system to avoid most of the strategic. A way to do so is to use single transferable vote. So instead of voting for one token, you rank the token you like in order. So here they say maker, timestamp, and request in order. So they prefer to vote for maker, but if maker is not going to win, or if maker has already won, the votes are going to go down to the second preference. So that's the single transferable vote. Let's assume that you have someone with 4 EVT, which just vote for maker, someone with 2 vote for timestamp and maker as a second preference. So assume you have this matrix. What will happen with STV is first round requests get well enough to get listed. So people vote to request, but in excess. Request has too much vote. So now the excess votes are going to get transferred to some part of the central land, some part of 0x. Now in the second round, that's the opposite which happened. No token has enough votes to get listed. So we take timestamp and we remove it because now it is lost, and the vote for timestamp get transferred to maker. No maker has enough, so maker get listed, and at the last point, no one has enough vote to satisfy the quota, so we remove the one with the smallest amount of vote, which is the central land, and we get request put into the listed. So basically, we can have a decentralized way to pre-list token, but this leads to way more token being pre-listed, and we can then, by changing a bit the voting system, have a voting system where it's not problematic to have a lot of tokens, because if you vote for some tokens which have no chance of being listed anyway, that's fine. Like the guy who voted for timestamp, the votes are going to get transferred to your other preference. So now we're going to go to question and proposal and attack on the system. So if you have a question, or if you think you have a way to attack the system, you're welcome to take the mic and speak about that. Here.
Yeah, first just a question on the Ethfinex stamp. So that would still be centralized, us who make that and say these meet our criteria, or how did you imagine that?
So about the stamp, you can either have it centralized at the beginning, or you can also vote for what are the rules. You can make some kind of STV vote where multiple people provide different kind of requirement to be put to vote, and then you rank the different kind of requirement, and the one winning the STV is a requirement which are going to be used when jurors look in dispute in terms of stamping.
So a possible attack to the system is the system doesn't take into account the external incentives. So although you may see that this is bribery, so how can you prevent somebody not to incentivize all the jurors to vote for something?
Oh, so that's if, I lost the slide. So if you accept bribes, people can appeal, and if you have the majority even after appeal accepting bribe, the system will have been basically compromised. So other people are going to stop using the system, which are going to lead to a drop of value of the token, and some people may want to fork it into making a new, like, honest Kleros to be used in the future.
But if we go back to the example of the shitcoin being accepted, what if you have you want to make this shitcoin being listed, and then you pay a lot of money ahead of time to jurors that they're going to vote for that shitcoin, and eventually it gets listed, and as long as you expect that what you can profit from the thing being listed pays for the cost of bribing, then
yeah, that's exactly the 15% attack. If you manage to bribe the majority, you're effectively going to have a dishonest ruling, but then people are not going to trust the system anymore. So the majority going to lose value of the token due to the system having been broken. It's the same kind of issue with proof of stake. Okay, you can bribe people to get 15% of the votes in proof of stake, but no, you just destroy Ethereum. So you use the Ether, and now your Ether are going to be worthless because Ethereum would have been broken. And probably someone is going to make a fork of Ethereum and going to remove the stake of the malicious party and only have the honest minority stayed in this new fork. So yeah, that's the attack vector, which is the same as proof of stake, yeah.
Well, so like the problem with this entire system is that it assumes that an attacker still wants their Kleros token to have a certain value, right? The problem with something like this is if you're arbitrating over a protocol which has a higher market cap than, let's say, Kleros, for them, that one-time damage of them destroying the network for that singular decision, which then gets acted upon because people are already locked into that system, that doesn't have that much loss to that specific protocol or to that specific network you're arbitrating against.
Yeah, again, it's the same as proof of stake. The same argument can be made for Ethereum. If you can buy most of the Ether and there is more value on Ethereum than the value of the Ether, it can be profitable to 51% attack the Ethereum network. Even if you destroy the value of your Ether, you got way more in terms of other assets which are on Ethereum which manage to move. So why it's difficult? It's specifically difficult if you have a lot of different use cases relying on the same dispute resolution system, a lot of different use cases relying on the same blockchain, because if you want to attack Ethereum or if you want to attack Kleros, you want that the cost that is going to cost you in destroying the value of your token to be lower than what you're going to profit from the malicious action you're going to do. And if you have a lot of different use cases, to be able to profit more, you're going to need to attack all the use cases or most of the use cases at the same time, which make it relatively hard in terms of logistics and relatively hard also in terms of budget.
But then wouldn't something like Eth or let's say Maker be more of a legitimate use case for something like Kleros, because the assumption that someone, or there's already inherent different value than the system itself. So the assumption that someone will be able to gain that entire thing is already lower than being able to take your specific currency which you've deployed for this and then ruining it.
No, because if you have an inherent value, that means that even if you destroy the value which is linked to dispute resolution, the dispute resolution fee that you can gain in the future, you still have some value. So it's better to go to zero than to go to low, because if it goes to zero, that's penalizing even more if a 50% attack succeeds. Thank you.
Thank you very much.